Welcome to episode 132 of Wines to Find. Our wines today are a 2020 Willm Reserve Pinot Blanc and a 2019 Arthur Metz Gewürztraminer. That's a mouthful. As part of our If You Like This, Try That series, we're looking into alternatives to Riesling. If you're a Riesling lover, you're going to want to listen to this episode. These two wines are both from the Alsace region of France. We'll also look at this wine-growing region as it is considered to be an optimal one if you prefer dry-style Rieslings. Mm-hmm. So, Sandy, we're going to dive right in with wine number one.
We sure are. Let's go ahead and do our look and smell and taste so that way we can get rolling on this.
I'm going to grab my... Well, we don't have to grab our piece of paper anymore, do we? We're going to flash the lights. All right, so it's very yellow. It's quite...
Oh, yes, it is. I do need a little piece of paper here or something.
Yeah.
It's definitely straw yellow, though.
It's more yellow than I thought it was going to be. I actually felt like this one was going to be lighter, but it's coming in pretty good.
It is. It's a little bit darker than I anticipated also. All right, cheers.
Cheers. We got to smell it.
Oh, yeah, smell.
Now,
it's floral on the nose.
Wines from the Alsace region are going to be very, very aromatic. That's something that we'll talk about on both of these.
And very peachy. I would say it's medium intensity.
Let's go ahead and taste it.
Okay. Oh, it has the little bit of tingle on the tongue with that salinity, so that's always very, very nice.
Very racy acidity.
It really
Definitely.
is. Mm-hmm. Very nice. Any other flavor notes that you're getting, Michelle? It's a clean finish.
I'm getting mineral. I'm not getting as much grapiness as I kind of thought I would, but the characteristic of Alsatian wines is a little bit of dryness. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely getting that. That is a tart tasting wine. What do you think?
Well, it's very fruit forward, so I'm not getting any drying sensation really.
I am on the back.
So, well, I'm not. So, I don't know why that is. It is considered dry. It's got those pear, peach. I do taste almonds. I kind of wrote some pre-notes, and it does definitely have some almonds flavoring in it. The total acidity is 3.3, so that is pretty high on the acid. The other thing is that it is only 3.75 grams of sugar, which for the entire bottle, which when you convert that into tablespoons, which is us as Americans are more used to than grams, that is less than a third of a tablespoon. So that's for the entire bottle. So that's very low on the residual sugar. That's because they do ferment to dryness.
So when we're talking about a wine that's dry and a wine that has very little residual sugar, that's what we're talking about, is the sugar actually after the process of making the wine, what's left over. And so there's a very small, teensy-weensy bit, is what you're saying, of sugar left in
Right.
this.
That's because to be able to make alcohol, the yeast converts the sugar into alcohol. So that's what ends up happening.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Alsace, which is a very interesting wine region. Jancis Robinson, who's one of my favorites to follow and learn from, she wrote the Wine Encyclopedia, which we have right here is our handy-dandy tool. She says Alsace is one of the great underappreciated treasures in the wine world. And another thing that I found very interesting is it's a huge tourist destination, even if you're not into the wine. And the reason is it's fairy tale land there. It's beautiful. It's rolling hills, mountainous. It's what you think of when you think of going to France, and it sits right on the border between Germany, Switzerland, and France. And it's actually been back and forth between France and Germany multiple times. So what you end up with the wines from there is sometimes they were German wines and sometimes they were French wines, depending.
That's right.
So the history of the winemaking leans a little bit towards both. And so it's an interesting area for delving into and tasting wines.
Right. And talking about tourism, one of the websites that I found was that it talks about the wine route. And that wine route goes where there were the Roman roads go through there. And it's all along that Rhine River, which is Rhine. And it's on the mountains, the Vasquez Mountains.
Yeah, I wasn't going to try to pronounce them. I went, there's some Vosquez, I believe. Vosque Mountains.
I actually looked it up, and now I can't recall how she says Vosque. I don't think there's no K in it.
Okay.
So it's just Vosque.
Vosque.
Very soft.
Quiet at the end?
Very quiet. Okay. Yes, very quiet at the end. So
maybe
those
when
are
it was
mountains.
German, it had the harshness to it.
Maybe, but it's definitely not in not now.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So, and I did look at what you can look at. We always want to know what the soil might be in an area because that kind of lends to what the character of a wine might be. And it's a real mix there. Some say it's the ideal mix of sand and clay for wine, which is why you get a lot of different variation in even
it's just
the
a
grapes.
hodgepodge.
But you get a variation of senses and tastes from that hodgepodge, which is great for lending more flavors to the wine.
Right, exactly.
Did you want to talk a little bit about Grand Cru or the Crus?
Sure. The first one is the Alsace AOC, which is the main cru, and probably I would say 90% of white wine would fall in that cru. It's not the Grand Cru; it's just basic AOC. Then you have the other wine that's being produced, including red, it's probably about 80%. However, the next level down is the Grand Cru, and there's 51 different appellations that are within that Grand Cru, that are within those little tiny spaces within the smaller. And one of the things that I wanted to let people know about is that these that during this Grand Cru, not only do they have these 51 vineyards, which are those small little appellations within that Grand Cru designation, there's absolutely no capitalization is allowed, which this is why I found very in capitalization. And capitalization is where you add sugar back into the wine. It's actually illegal to do that. So I think that's good if you are looking at it not being overly sugar laden, which is what we just talked about. And sometimes they had to restrict it because it was so high. Whenever a grape gets ripe in that area, it is a very cool climate, so it may not get as ripe as quickly as it could, so they'd have to add the sugar back in to be able to get the alcohol up. But what they're finding even now is with climate change, more grapes are ripening faster, so they are having more sugar, so you're getting a little bit higher alcohol content. But that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to highlight is that this is one of the Grand Crus, they do not allow that capitalization.
They frown upon it. And so when we did our Riesling episodes, we did learn that was something that back in the day, and even in Germany, they're moving away from adding the sugar back in. But again, because of the growing condition and climate, it's a highly acidic grape, and they tend to walk a fine line between needing to add some sugar in to actually get it to be the correct taste, and also not wanting to add it in just for the sake of adding it in. Back in the day, they just added it in to make a sweet wine. Sweet wines are not as likely to be purchased nowadays. It's not what the palates are looking for, and so
right.
The world is moving away from the sugar content in wine.
The third appellation, a designation or style, is the Cremant d'Alsace. So that is the sparkling, which they have a good many of those. I think it's like 23% is produced in that style.
And the majority of what you get in Alsace is going to be, Pinot Blanc. So let's talk about what wines are produced in that area. You're going to have the Gewürztraminer. You're going to have Riesling. You're going to have Pinot Blancs, which is what we're tasting, wine number one. And you're going to have those Cremant d'Alsace. That's the majority. And the majority of wines produced in that area are going to be white wines. It's not 100%, but it's a high percentage of wines. So if you're looking for white wines from France to try, Alsace is a great place to start.
Excellent. Very good.
Do we want to move into wine number 2?
Sure. Let's go ahead and do that.
It is the mouthful. It is a Gewürztraminer, and it doesn't even sound like what it looks like because it's one of those. It's that German spelling, so it's one of those mouthfuls. And they've actually shortened it. Sometimes you might hear it as just a Gewürz. And the Traminer grape is the grape of origin, but we'll get into that. Let's go ahead and taste and look and see.
It's very light.
It is. It's
hard to see.
Yes.
Blue. Well, let's go ahead and look. Yeah, it's even lighter than the Pinot Blanc, which I was not anticipating. I was thinking it was going to be deeper and richer, so that's a little off for me.
The Gewürztraminer grape is actually going to be known for its aromatics, so I'm excited to put it to the nose.
Wow. It's very petroleum, which I had truly expected. Usually petroleum smells happen with a Riesling. I did not expect this with this. I've never had one before.
Gewürztraminer?
Gewürztraminer.
Okay,
I've never had one. I've had Gruner Veltliner, but never a Gewürz. How do you say it?
Gewürztraminer. So
Gewürztraminer.
It's Gewürztraminer.
Okay. I say it right in my head. It just doesn't come out.
It's very interesting. All right.
And peach, limes, lots of lime.
Citrus notes. You should
very much.
Orange.
Limes, grapefruit.
Okay, I'm going to taste it.
Okay.
Now this one has a lot more of that sugary taste.
It is very much so. Got a lot more sugar, and it tastes woodsy.
Earthy?
No, not earthy. Like literally wood.
Oh.
Like, you know how sap would taste?
Piney?
Piney. It tastes piney to me. I don't know if that's is terpene. Maybe that's what the petroleum. Maybe I don't know. It's definitely.
Well, typical of Gewürztraminer is going to be sweeter. So it's actually likened to the Muscat or Moscato grape.
The Moscato grape.
So it's going to be sweeter. This one is considered off dry. It is not going to have that high acid that you have in, say, the Pinot Blanc that we just tried, which was super acidic. It is going to be a full-bodied. It's going to stand up to a bigger, heftier meal.
You can definitely tell the texture was definitely fuller on the tongue.
And typically, the main flavors that you're going to get in a Gewürztraminer are orange peel, lychee, rose petal, Turkish Delight. And I started.
Yeah, what is it? What is that?
I was like, what? I got to look these up because I wasn't familiar with half of these tastes or smells. So Turkish Delight is like a Turkish candy that is like a starch and sugary gel that contains bits of things. It's almost like a nougat, but not. And so pistachio, walnut, a lot of nuts are in there, and then flavors. And the common flavor that you get, it's like a catch-22. You go round and round when you look at all of these different meanings of all these.
Right.
The common taste of Turkish Delight is lychee. Also didn't know what that was, so I'd look it up. It's a tropical fruit native to China.
They're fuzzy, right?
They look like a little strawberry, but bumpy, like a little bumpy
And then you
strawberry.
have to peel them. I think the outside is hard.
Yeah,
right?
And it's pitted. It grows in China, but it can be grown also in Florida and Hawaii.
Okay.
And the smell is described as fragrant and sweet with floral notes. So if you look up Turkish Delight, it's fragrant and sweet. And if you look up lychee, it's the same. So basically, they're describing themselves. So I'm not certain that that's definitive enough. I guess I'd have to get a lychee to know. But what I was excited about is I like pineapple taste in a wine. I like those tropical flavors, and I was excited to try this and see if we got that.
Definitely tropical flavors, for sure.
And the other thing that is great with the ones that are tropical is Gewürztraminer is going to be one that is going to hold up to a spicy dish.
I definitely think this needs food. There is so many spices going on with this. That's all just from the grape. It has not been aged in oak or anything like that. It's stainless. That's what's amazing is this grape it's a powerful flavor punch.
It is. And in fact, the grape of origin is the Traminer grape, and that was actually originally and is still grown in northern Italy. You can find it in northern Italy. And for some reason, it made its way to Alsace, which is described as the ideal growing condition for this grape. So Gewürztraminer is mostly, if you're going to see wines made from the Gewürztraminer, it's going to be from the Alsace region, typically, like majority. Maybe some in Austria, which we almost got an Austrian one because I was interested to try that. But Gewürztraminer, actually, the literal translation is spicy traminer.
Oh, there you go. That explains it.
Packs a mouthful.
That truly does.
Yeah. So we're going to have some Thai food later with it, I think, just to see. We might have to report back on how it tastes and what our thoughts are on it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So let's see. If you like Riesling, these are two very, very distinctly different wines that we'd have to break down. If you like a sweeter Riesling, we would push you towards those Gewürztraminers. If you like a drier Riesling, if you're not getting first of all, if you like a drier Riesling, you might want to try a Riesling from Alsace because those tend to be drier. And then you would want to maybe, if you wanted to branch out, this Pinot Blanc to me is a great drier wine if you were looking for that replacement for or alternative to Riesling, which was our topic. Were there any other grapes that we wanted to talk about or wines?
These were the two that we wanted to highlight. Okay. If you wanted Pinot Blanc, you could also it was also a good swap for an Albarino. Those two are very similar. Pinot Blanc is a mutation of Pinot Noir, so that kind of gives you an idea as far as where that's coming from. Pinot Blanc is also one of those grapes that is kind of fallen out of favor, more so for the Pinot Grigio, which kind of also has that really light flavor profile that this does. So I would go with an Albarino or that Pinot Grigio or Gris, whichever country you decide to get it from, would be more similar to this Pinot Blanc.
Yep. And the Gewürztraminer, what you would want to try would be the Gruner Veltliner, which is going to be an Australian.
That's the one that I've had. I've had the Australian Gruner Veltliner, but this one is just wow. Do you want to go ahead and get into the ratings?
Absolutely.
Just because it's let's go ahead and rate number one, which was the Pinot Blanc. I do enjoy this one. I think it's nice, light, and bright. It does have some flavors, a little bit of floral characteristics, definitely fruit forward. I think it would go nicely with shellfish or a salad, definitely something light because it's such a light embodied wine. It was also about a $15 price point, so the price point's also reasonable for that Tuesday or Thursday night. Salad for you. I would give this a 4. I definitely would try this one again.
I would give it a 4 as well. It's very light. It's very fun. It's got a lot of flavor. It's got a lot happening to it, and I can see it in a lot of different settings, whether it's a light lunch, sitting by the pool, or an aperitif type thing. So it would fit a lot of bills,
right?
I would say
exactly. All right. What do you think about
the Gewürztraminer? The mouthful,
yes,
the Gewürztraminer.
The Gewürztraminer,
and it's a mouthful in both the word and taste,
and the taste too. It's warmed up a little bit. And I think that's helped me personally. I think it softened some of those really pungent flavors. Right now, I'm giving it a 3. I would like to finish this glass and try it with food because I'm really, really curious. But that is definitely not a porch pounder. I could not sit and just drink it by itself. So I'm real curious to see how it's going to pair with something with some ginger that has lots and lots of flavor that it could be a companion to.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to do our Gewürztraminer is one of my favorite pairings, and I couldn't have that wine because of the wines defined. If you had it before, you can't. So was a Gewürztraminer that I had with spicy food, and it really does go well with food. I don't know that I like this particular one as much as I did that one. Okay. It's a little bit sweeter. It does have that flavor still. I do like the flavor. It's a little bit sweeter. I'm going to go 3.5 though, because I have a suspicion that once you
it's
pair
going to get better with food.
I'm
that's
at
3 right now.
Story.
It's almost. I'll tell you, Michelle, it was almost a 2.
Well, yeah, I could tell. And you could, but go ahead and be honest, because I mean, it should. Don't it's a $20
well,
bottle
because
of wine.
I don't know if with food that I would enjoy it. So that's why I don't want to say, oh, I really would like to give it. I'd like to give it a try.
Okay.
So that's why I did 3 is our average rating.
3 is you'll be polite and finish the glass, but you're probably not going to revisit it. So
yes.
But we are going to revisit it because we're going to revisit it with food and see how it turns out.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Wines to Find. We hope if you did, you would share it with a friend, and we hope you'll join us next time on
Wines to Find.